Azora Keene stood before the polished mahogany casket, feeling a profound emptiness. No pain, no tears, just a hollow, vacant void. A cold, thick void like Chicago's autumn mud beneath her boots. The casket lid, meanwhile, was screwed down tight. A thin man with a pale, grave face the funeral director had whispered to her yesterday. It would be best not to open it. Ma'am, his condition is terrible. The car was almost entirely consumed by fire. Remember him as he was. At the time, she'd simply nodded, seeing no reason to argue. Now, facing the open grave, a question lingered. Is it actually true? Is Drayton even in there? Just then, her mother-in-law, Odora Keene, was wailing with heart-wrenching sobs draped across the casket. Her large frame convulsed with overpowering grief. Smeared lipstick painted streaks across her tear-stained cheeks. Her gaze then fell on Azora, a fire of fury igniting within her eyes. This is entirely your fault. You made him utterly miserable. He was running from you, slaving away while you just sat around at home, constantly demanding. Azora said nothing. What could she possibly say, that for the last 10 years she had been a dutiful wife who cooked, cleaned, and waited on her husband, never once questioning where all the money was going, despite holding a teaching degree. But Drayton was adamant she remain at home minding the house instead of wasting her time in classrooms earning pocket change. Nearby, Drayton's uncle Thaddeus Keene watched from a distance, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. His bushy gray mustache seemed to bristle with disdain. His stare was hard, accusatory. He'd never bothered to hide his opinion of Azora, unworthy of his beloved nephew. And now he stared at her, as though she herself had shoved Drayton into the path of that truck. Amidst the neighbors' whispers, Zanaya Mosley, a young mother from the building, approached and awkwardly embraced Azora around her shoulders. "You hang in there, sugar. I'm here if you need anything." Azora felt grateful, but she was unable to utter a single word. The casket descended and dirt struck the lid with a sickening thud. Odora crumpled to her knees, howling like a wounded animal. Thaddeus spun on his heel and stalked toward his car. Azora simply remained by the grave's edge of the grave long after all the others had gone. The wind sweeping off Lake Michigan lashed at her dark coils, freezing her face. Staring at the fresh mound of dirt, she wondered, why can't I cry? It was 3 days after the service when a sharp knock came at the door. Azura opened it, finding 2 men dressed in business suits. The first was tall, with a square jaw. The other man was shorter and held a folder. Azura Keene. The taller one verified. "Yes, we're representing a collections agency. We have some documents for your review." Unsure why she let them inside, the men stepped into the living room, spreading a fan of papers on the table. "Your husband, Drayton Keene, secured several loans from various banking institutions. The total amount of the debt is now $200,000. The contracts stipulate that in the event of death, all obligations are transferred to the spouse. This is your signature." Azora looked at the document in utter disbelief. It certainly looked like her signature, but she had no memory of signing such a thing. I never signed this. Voluntary payment is due within 30 days. The shorter man replied without emotion. Otherwise, we proceed to court and your assets will be seized and auctioned. The moment they departed, Azora crumpled to the floor in the hallway, her head in her hands. $200,000. Where did it come from? Why, Drayton had always insisted he earned well, that everything was perfectly under control. And now he was gone, and she was abandoned to face this monstrous weight. She quickly called her mother, Oilia Rains, who lived in Detroit. "Mama, I'm in trouble." Her voice was shaking. "What's wrong, baby?" Azura explained everything. Her mother went silent, then let out a heavy sigh. "I warned you about relying on a man, but I simply don't have that kind of money, Azora. I'm living on my pension, you're aware of that. Tavarius might be able to help some, but it won't be much." Her older brother Tavarius called about an hour later. "Azora, I'll do whatever I can, but I have a family, kids. I can Scrape together maybe $1,000. Any more is just impossible. Thanks, Tavarius, Azura whispered. $1,000 against 200,000. It was absurd. Azura sold the condo, which was the only thing she truly owned, an older unit on Chicago's South Side. It sold quickly, but the proceeds barely made a dent in the debt. The remainder hung over her like a colossal stone. She relocated to a cramped room in a cheap boarding house on the opposite side of the city. A mere 130 square feet. A shared kitchen, a bathroom down the hall. Her neighbors were day laborers, students, and solitary seniors. For 2 weeks she searched for work. Her teaching degree proved worthless. She'd been out of the workforce for far too long. The schools required recent experience. The supermarket rejected her. A local bar rejected her. Finally, she saw a sign service station attendant wanted shift work. No experience required. She went in for the interview. The manager, a man of about 50 with lifeless eyes, eyed her with disinterest. You think you can handle this? Yes. All right then. You'll start the day after tomorrow, the 8 to 8 shift. We will train you on site. The station was located near the highway on the city's edge. A constant biting wind blew there, chilling you to the bone even on mild days. Azura began her very first shift in early October. She was met by Ma Toiver, the shift supervisor, a woman over 50 with a hardened, weathered face and keen, cold gray eyes. She sized Azura up and down. All right, listen up. Here are the pumps, your customers. Come in all types. Plenty of them have attitudes. Don't start fights, but don't you let them push you around. Got it? And don't. Just stand there. See, there's a line forming. The first few days were a living nightmare. Her hands reeked of gasoline, her back ached from being on her feet all day. Her head throbbed with fatigue. Customers yelled, made demands, some hurled insults. Azura just gritted her teeth and simply did her job. 2 other people worked the shift with her, Vonda Banks, a talkative woman of about 40, who commented on every customer as soon as they left. Did you see that pulls up in a Range Rover and counts pennies one by one? Total cheapskate. Vonda, get back to work, Ma grunted. Oh girl, I'm just saying. The third was Terrell Moss, a night school student who worked the late shift. He hardly spoke, but one day when Azura couldn't manage to lift a heavy crate of motor oil, he silently walked over and assisted her. Thanks, she told him. He simply gave a nod and walked away. An entire month passed. Azura got used to the cold, the fatigue, the rhythm. She learned to completely disconnect her emotions, to do only what was necessary. The debt collectors gave her no peace. They called daily, sent endless texts, and demanded meetings. One time they even appeared at the gas station. It was a Friday with her shift almost over. Azura was already thinking, about to return to the boarding house and collapse, when a sleek black sedan pulled up to the pump. The same 2 men got out, Squarejaw and Folder Guy. Keen, the tall one shouted. Took us long enough to find you. Ma Toiver peered out from her booth. Who are they? Collectors, Azura whispered back. You're not causing any trouble here. Leave now. Ma shouted. We just need a word with her, then we'll be gone, the man said calmly. As they neared Azura, she felt her hands begin to shake. Did you think we'd forget? The tall one sneered. That hiding out here solves it all? I'm working. I'll pay what I can. You're paying us peanuts. We need a real payment. I don't have anything else. Then you'll find it. Sell something. Borrow it. We don't care. But if we don't get $5,000 in 2 weeks, we're taking you to court. And then they'll garnish everything. And with that, they left. Azura stood frozen. Ma came over, placing a hand on her shoulder. Hang in there, child. Sometimes you just have to endure worse. A week later, an event occurred that would alter her life forever. It was a Saturday, overcast and windy. Azura was busy filling the gas tank of an old Chevy Impala as a sleek black sedan glided into the station. She knew the brand instantly. It was a Mercedes-Maybach, the newest model. The car came to a stop. A nervous young man in a suit got out from the driver's side and walked to the cashier. Then, a tall black man around 45 emerged, wearing a rich cashmere coat, stepped out from the back seat. His features were firm and decisive, his eyes dark and piercing. He surveyed the area, then took out his phone and dialed a number. Azura caught only fragments. "Yes, I'm aware, but we are running late. Fine, I will try again." He ended the call and said to his driver, "Kojo, we need to hurry." The driver gave a nod. The man leaned against the car and shut his eyes, looking both exhausted and tense. Tyrell began to fill the tank as Azura moved aside so she would not intrude, and checked her phone. It rang an unknown number again. "Yes, Keen, it's about the money. I can't pay right now. We don't care. Your time is up. Please give me 1 more week. I'll get it. Not 1 week. Payment or court." The voice was hard and implacable. Azura felt a knot form in her throat. She turned away, hiding her expression from view. "Please." She was unaware the man in the coat was observing her. He had heard the desperation in her voice, and he had seen the anguished way she clutched the phone. As she hung up and turned, she found him already beside her. Their eyes met, locked. His gaze held something unusual, not pity, but a sense of calculation. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "I require your assistance." Azura stared at him, confused. "In 3 hours, I have a very important meeting at a restaurant, and I need you to pose as my wife." "A meeting? A dinner? And I will pay you anything you ask." Azura was sure she had misheard him. "What?" "I asked if you heard me. I need a wife for 1 evening. It's a business meeting. I must project an image of stability. I can give you $5,000 in cash right now." $5,000, the precise sum the collectors were demanding. "I can't," she managed to stammer. "This is completely absurd. I realize it sounds strange, but there's no time to explain. I need your answer now." He offered her a business card, Lucius Sterling, CEO. "It is simply a business dinner," he added. "There's nothing illegal. Just sit by my side and follow along with the talk. That's all." Azura stared at the card. $5,000. She could make the first payment. Breathe for 1 more month. Fine. She heard herself say, "I accept." Lucius nodded as if her answer was a foregone conclusion. "Excellent. What is your name?" "Azora." Kojo opened the trunk. Kojo opened it. Inside lay an evening gown, fine stockings, a box containing shoes, and a clutch. "Are these for me?" Azora stammered. "It indeed," Lucius confirmed. "I visited 3 stations seeking someone of your exact profile. Not too young, not too flashy, but natural. You are ideal." A cold dread washed over Azora. He had planned it all. "Now go change. We are short on time." "Time!" Azora rushed into the staff washroom. The charcoal gray dress clung to her form perfectly. The dress was both elegant and subtle. The shoes fit comfortably. Even the makeup kit held hues that perfectly matched her complexion. After washing her face, she applied a light layer of foundation and styled her hair. When she gazed into the mirror, she didn't recognize the reflection before her. Gone was the gas station worker in a grease-stained jacket. In her place stood a poised, confident, and stunning black woman. She slid into the car where Lucius sat beside her. Kojo started the engine. "Pay close attention," Lucius began. "You are Azora Sterling, my wife of 10 years. We first met at a conference in Chicago. We have no children. You previously worked in a museum. Now you manage the household. You enjoy reading and jazz. You despise loud parties. We've just returned from Italy visiting Rome and Florence." "Again?" Azora recited it. Lucius nodded. "Again." They drilled the story for the entire drive. Lucius was firm, yet patient, questioning her, correcting her, and then questioning again. By the time they reached the restaurant, Azora had convinced even herself that she'd been married to him for 10 long years. "Excellent work," Lucius commented. "You're a quick study." "Thanks." The restaurant was opulent, situated downtown in the Loop, with high ceilings, glittering crystal chandeliers, and waiters in tuxedos. Azora clutched Lucius's arm tightly. He squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Relax," he murmured. "You look radiant. Simply smile and contribute a little to the conversation." They were then escorted to their table where a man and a woman were already seated. Woman, both around 50 years old, dressed in expensive clothes and exuding an air of importance. "The Abernathys," Lucius whispered. Azora smiled, offered her hand, and listened. Their conversation revolved around business, the stock market, and various investments. Azora spoke. Very little, just what was necessary. She worked to look serene, confident, and perfect. Then her eyes landed on him over by the window. The beard, the mustache, the thin glasses, the expensive suit. Despite it all, she recognized him at once. Drayton, her husband, the man she'd mourned, the one who was meant to have perished in a car fire, the one who left her drowning in his debt, alone and utterly destroyed. But he was alive, sitting with an elegantly dressed woman. He was laughing, clasping her hand and kissing her cheek. Azora was paralyzed ice spreading through her veins. The world swam before her. She couldn't hear a sound. Her world had narrowed to just Drayton, happy, relaxed, and alive. Lucius leaned closer. "Azora, my dear, are you all right?" She stumbled over her words. "Honey, could you please walk me to the restroom?" "Certainly. Excuse us for a moment. We shall be right back," Lucius informed the Abernathys. They moved down a corridor, away from prying eyes. Azora was gasping for air, with difficulty. "That man," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He is my husband." Lucius frowned. "What? The one who is in that corner? That's Drayton, but he's supposed to be deceased. I buried him 1 month ago." Lucius shot a discreet look at the dining room, then back to her. "Are you sure?" "Without a doubt. I lived with that man for 10 years. I would know him anywhere, in any disguise. The beard, mustache, and glasses. It's a clever costume, but I know it's him." Lucius remained quiet for a moment, processing. His face was a mask, but a sharp, cold glint flashed in his eyes. He then said in a low tone, "We must have a very serious discussion." Azora nodded. She looked back to Drayton. He lifted his glass in a toast, completely unaware. He never even glanced her way. Azora had to force herself to sit tall. Lucius was correct. They had to finish this dinner, play her part to the end, because now she had a purpose and she knew her next move. She would take everything back. She'd prove he lived, and then force him to answer for every tear, for each sleepless night, for all her fear. Azora linked her arm with Lucius's and returned with him. Back to the table as if all was normal. She sat, smiled, lifted her glass, and calmly declared, "To our meeting." Lucius Sterling regarded her with newfound respect, lifting his own glass. The meeting continued for another hour. Azora sat, upright, smiling, contributing to the conversation. Internally, she was seething, but on the surface, she appeared serene, almost regal. Lucius stole glances at her, occasionally filled with surprise and intrigue. She played her part flawlessly, as though born to be the wife of a powerful businessman. Lucius's associates, Clarence and Ida Abernathy, went over supply terms. Azora chimed in with brief, precise remarks. At times, she would pose questions. She knew her presence was important. The Abernathys obviously valued that Lucius had brought his wife along. It projected solidity and stability. Ada smiled. "I imagine you must be exhausted from all this shop talk." "No, not in the slightest." Azora smiled. "I find it fascinating. Besides, Lucius rarely discusses work at home, so it's a treat to hear the details." Ada let out a laugh. My Clarence is the very same, so reserved. Abernathy chuckled but gave a smiling nod. Drayton was still in the corner. Azura fought the urge to look, but from the corner of her eye she watched him charm his companion, a poised and elegant black woman who was around 45. She let out a loud laugh, touched his arm, and leaned in close. Drayton looked content at ease without a hint of guilt or any fear. At last the meeting concluded. The Abernathys said their goodbyes, promising a call on Monday. Lucius escorted them to the exit while Azora stayed at the table, her head bowed as if focused on typing something on her phone. Drayton rose, assisting his companion with her coat. They headed for the door. As they moved past Azora's table, he didn't spare her a glance. He saw right through her, just another woman sitting in a restaurant. Azora followed him with her eyes. Once the door shut behind them, she exhaled. Lucius returned and sat in the seat opposite her. "Now tell me everything," he commanded in a low, firm tone. Azora nodded. She centered herself and began to speak calmly, piece by piece, avoiding any hysteria. She spoke of her marriage to Drayton, how he'd insisted she not work, and how 1 month ago she was informed of his death in a car crash, the closed casket at the funeral, and then the debts. $200,000, she explained. "I was oblivious to those loans, but the signature on the documents is my own. The handwriting. Analysis confirmed it. Perhaps he gave me family papers to sign and I didn't review them. I trusted him. I sold our condo. Relocated to a cheap boarding house, began working at the gas station, but it's insufficient. The collectors are now hounding me down. They demand money." Lucius listened in silence, never interrupting her. After she had finished, he seemed pensive before asking, "Are you certain it was him?" "Absolutely. I shared my life with him for 10 years. I would know him anywhere. The beard, mustache, and glasses serve as a clever disguise. But it is him." Lucius remained silent for a few moments. This constitutes a very serious crime, forging death certificates, faking a death, and fraud. "I know," Azora replied softly, "but how can I possibly prove it? Who would ever believe me? I'm just an indebted gas station clerk. Officially, he is deceased." Lucius observed her intently. "Do you need my assistance?" "Yes. And why should I?" Azora met his gaze. "Because you are a just person. At least that is the impression you give." Lucius Sterling watched her in silence. His expression was assessing but not unkind. He considered her words, gauging her resolve. "You are correct," he finally said. "I detest injustice, but aiding in a situation like this is serious. It involves time, money, and risks." "I understand," Azora responded. "Which is why I'm not asking for charity. I am proposing a deal." Lucius raised an eyebrow. "And what kind of deal?" "I will forfeit the $5,000 you owe me for tonight. In return, you help me prove Drayton is alive. Engage the right people. When this is all resolved and the debts are transferred back to his name, I will repay my debt to you. I promise to work at your company for however long it takes without pay if needed." Lucius gave a slight smile. "Do you truly believe your labor is going to cover the expense of an attorney and a private investigator?" Number Azora replied with sincerity. "I don't believe so, but it is everything I have to offer. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm requesting a chance." Lucius was quiet for a moment, then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Elena, reschedule tomorrow's meeting for Tuesday and get me the contact information for Esau Bingham, the attorney. It is urgent. Thanks." He then put his phone away and gazed at Azora. "If we proceed with this, we see it through to the end. No drama, no meltdowns." "Are you prepared?" "I am," she answered firmly. "Good. We begin tomorrow. I also know a detective, a former homicide investigator, a trustworthy man. He'll gather the intel. The attorney will handle the legal aspects, but the primary work falls to you. You will need to recall every detail about your husband. Anything that could possibly be useful, I'll remember," Azura vowed. Lucius nodded, motioned for the waiter and settled the bill. They departed from the restaurant. It was cool outside with a gentle breeze drifting from the lake. Kojo was already waiting beside the car. "We'll take you home now," Lucius announced. "Yes, please." Azura agreed. They drove in silence as Azura gazed out the window, replaying the evening's events. That morning she had been at the gas station freezing and drained. Now she found herself in a luxurious vehicle next to a man who'd offered to help her. It all felt so surreal. "You did exceptionally well tonight," Lucius said, abruptly. "The Abernathys were impressed with you. I believe the deal will proceed." "Thank you," she responded quietly. "You have good instincts. You understood when to talk and when to stay silent. That is quite rare." Azura was at a loss for how to reply. The car pulled up to the old peeling edifice of the boarding house. "Here we are," she said. Lucius glanced at the dismal facade and its chipped walls. "Be at this address tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. He passed her a card. "It is my company's office. We're scheduled to meet with the lawyer." "All right." Azura accepted the card. "I appreciate it." "Of course. Try to rest, Azura. Good night." She exited the vehicle, ascended to her room, changed her attire, and then sank onto the bed. It was only then that the full weight of what had occurred hit her. Drayton was alive. He had betrayed her, saddled her with his debts, and was now cohabiting with some wealthy, impeccably groomed woman. Azura lay down, closing her eyes. The day's utter exhaustion weighed down on her, yet sleep remained elusive. In the haze between wakefulness and dreams, images blurred. Drayton in the restaurant, his grin, his hand resting on that woman's shoulder, the sealed casket, the demanding creditors, the lonely gas station. She rolled over, clutching her pillow tightly. Sleep had to come. No, she would not cry, and she would not wallow in self-pity. She was determined to fight. Tomorrow was a new day. She rose early in the morning, using the communal shower in the bathroom, and dressed in dark trousers and a simple light blouse. Her reflection was pale, worn down by a series of devastating failures, yet resolute. She rode the bus into the city center and located the building, a modern commercial tower with a glass facade. She ascended to the 8th floor. A plaque on the door read, "Sterling and Associates Logistics and Supply." She stepped inside. A middle-aged woman in serious office attire sat at the reception desk. When she noticed Azura, her expression softened into a polite smile. "You must be Azura. Mr. Sterling is expecting you. Please go right on in." She then guided her into a very spacious office. Lucius was positioned behind a large desk, and next to him sat a man of about 55 years with gray hair and glasses, clutching a folder. "Azura," Lucius said, rising to his feet. "I would like to introduce you to Esau Bingham, our attorney at law. He will be handling your case." Bingham offered his hand. "A pleasure. Lucius has briefed me on the basic situation, however. I require more details. Please have a seat." Azura complied. The lawyer opened his notepad and poised his pen. "Recount everything from the start, in chronological order." She recounted her story for more than an hour. Bingham posed sharp questions, taking notes and occasionally frowning. After she had finished, he slowly shook his head. "This situation is quite complex, but I will take the case," he stated. "First, we need to acquire every loan document. Second, we must request the complete file on your husband's passing. Third, find witnesses who can confirm seeing him alive after the official date of his death. Fourth, we will scrutinize the signatures on all the contracts." "And how will we prove the man at that restaurant is actually my husband?" Azura questioned. "Photographs, videos, witness accounts. But it's not enough. We need positive identification, fingerprints, DNA. To get that, we must involve the police. The question is, will they believe us?" Bingham gave a wry smile. "If we present them with solid proof, they will. Law enforcement doesn't enjoy being deceived. Faking one's death is a very serious offense. Lucius interjected. Esau, what is the time frame to prepare all this? Around 2 weeks to collect the documents and preliminary data. After that, we can file the complaint. From that point, it depends on their speed of action. Excellent. Begin immediately. I am covering all the expenses. The attorney nodded, collecting his papers. Azura, expect my call in a few days. I will prepare a list of questions, and one more thing. I need you to recall every detail about your husband. His habits, his friendships, the places he frequented. Anything could be significant. Okay, she promised. Bingham then departed. Lucius poured a cup of coffee and handed it to Azura, who accepted. There's one more thing, Lucius began. I've already contacted a detective. He'll be here this afternoon. Cyrus Red, a retired homicide inspector. Sharp, seasoned, and thorough. If your husband surfaces anywhere, Red will locate him. Thank you. Azura said, a flicker of hope kindling inside her for the first time in what felt like forever. Don't thank me just yet. Lucius smiled gently. Our work is just beginning. That afternoon, Azura returned to the office. Cyrus Red was a man of about 60, well-built, with intense dark eyes and a composed demeanor. He listened intently to her account, posing brief, direct questions. Do you possess any photographs of your husband? He inquired. Yes, they're on my phone. Azura presented several to him. Red examined them with care. He requested she send them via text. A beard and mustache can alter a face, but not entirely, he remarked. The structure of the skull, the ears, the eyes, those can't truly be concealed. Describe the woman accompanying him. Azura detailed what she knew of Genevieve, the name she'd heard Drayton use. Tall, impeccably groomed, wearing costly jewels with self-assured mannerisms. So, a wealthy woman, Red considered. He's probably living on her dime. That simplifies things for us. There are only so many like her in this city. I will consult my network. Salons, high-end shops, restaurants, they're known everywhere. And what happens then? Azura inquired. Then I will determine where they reside. I'll establish surveillance, collect evidence, photos, videos, then it goes to the lawyer and the authorities. It sounded so straightforward, but Azura knew the reality would be far more difficult. Cyrus, what happens if he discovers we are tracking him? He won't. The detective responded with composure. I have been doing this for 3 decades. If my subjects ever became aware, I'd have been out of a job ages ago. Lucius escorted Red to the exit and came back into the office. You look exhausted, he observed to Azura. Go home and rest. I will call tomorrow with any updates. Azura gave a nod. She was utterly drained both physically and emotionally, yet a tiny flame flickered within her. She was not alone any longer. She now had allies. 2 days went by. Red telephoned on Wednesday afternoon. I've got him, he stated bluntly. The woman's name is Genevieve St. Clair, 47 years of age, proprietor of a small beauty salon chain with 3 locations in the city. A substantial income. She resides in a lavish Gold Coast condominium. A man who calls himself Drayton is cohabitating with her. Kane. Yes, he altered a single letter of his surname. There are no official documents under that name. He appears to avoid any paper trail, using her vehicle, spending her funds. A classic kept man. Azura listened, her hand tightening on the phone. Are you certain it's him? I have photographs. I'm sending them over now. A moment later, the pictures appeared. Drayton exiting the building and entering a vehicle. Drayton in a coffee shop beside Genevieve. Drayton inside a supermarket. Without the beard, he would look exactly the same as he did before. It's him, Azura breathed. Then we move forward, Red said. I will gather additional evidence. Within a week, we will have a complete file. Azura relayed all of this to Lucius, who listened and nodded. Excellent. Bingham has already put in for the case file. It ought to arrive tomorrow. Then the official process begins. The Following day, the attorney contacted Lucius requesting he visit his office. Azura was also asked to attend. On the desk there lay a hefty folder. It contained the file on the supposed death of Drayton Keene. Bingham announced, "I've gone through it all and something is quite revealing. No DNA analysis was ever performed. The body's identification was based on clothing documents in a pocket and witnessy testimony, namely yours, Azura, and that of your mother-in-law." "But I never even saw the body," Azura countered. "The coffin was sealed." "Precisely," the lawyer acknowledged. "The official report claims you confirmed the identity of the deceased by his apparel and personal items, a pure formality and incredibly shoddy police work. The detective who led the case is now retired. It's likely he didn't want to overcomplicate his life. He closed the matter hastily, so nobody verified if it was actually Drayton." Lucius scowled. "No one. And now look at this. The day before this alleged incident, a homeless man vanished within the city. A man whose age and build were strikingly similar to Drayton's. They searched for him, but found nothing. The case was closed." Azura felt an icy chill crawl up her spine. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm suggesting your husband planned it all meticulously," Bingham stated gravely. "He discovered a suitable person, lured him, took his life, or perhaps simply made use of his body, placed him in his own clothes, planted his documents, orchestrated the accident, and just like that, Drayton Keene was officially gone." Azura buried her face in her hands. The thought was horrifying. Drayton might have taken a man's life. Why, to escape his debts for that other woman? "So what is our next move?" Lucius asked. "Now we visit the police?" The lawyer replied with conviction. "With all of this evidence, Red's photos and Azura's statement, we will demand they open a criminal case for forgery of documents, grand fraud, and potential homicide." Azura lifted her head. "I am prepared," she stated. "I'll go and make the report." Lucius gazed at her with respect. "Then I'll be there with you first thing in the morning." Bingham nodded. "Me too. As a group. They are more likely to listen to us." Azura walked out of the office feeling as if she were on the edge of a great abyss. Tomorrow a true war was set to begin, but she felt no fear. She was prepared for this war. The morning broke cold and gray. Azura had woken up early and stood in the shower for a very long time trying to soothe her nerves. Today, she was going to the police. Today, she would formally state that her husband was alive, that he had fooled absolutely everyone, and that he may have taken a man's life. She put on her best clothes, a dark gray suit she had acquired before Drayton's, faked death for what she thought would be official meetings. At that time, it felt like her life would hold important events. There were none. Until this day. Lucius had a car sent. Kojo drove her to the office. From that building, the three of them, Azura, Lucius, and Bingham, set off for the Chicago Police Headquarters. The building was gray and formidable from the outside. Inside it was blue walls and well-worn floors. Bingham walked with confidence to the desk. Sergeant introduced himself and requested to speak with a detective. The officer, who was a young lieutenant, glanced at them with curiosity. "What is this?" In reference to a complaint regarding document forgery and a possible homicide, Bingham stated with clarity. The lieutenant immediately straightened his posture. "Please have a seat. I'll contact the investigator." They waited for nearly 20 minutes. At last, a black woman who appeared to be around 40 years old approached. Brown eyes, a perfect uniform, and short natural hair. She introduced herself. "Detective Sergeant Nia Cross. Please follow me to my office." Her office was small, filled with filing cabinets and shelves lined with binders. Cross settled behind her desk and gestured to the chairs across from her. "I'm all ears." Azura began her account. She recounted the story with composure in a methodical way, leaving no detail out. The detective listened, asking questions and taking notes. When Azura concluded, the sergeant said, "These are grave allegations. Do you have Any proof? Bingham placed a folder on the desk with documents, Red's photos, and the file on Drayton's death. Here is the original file. As you'll note, no DNA test was conducted. The body's identification was merely a formality, and here, he gestured to the photos, images of the man assuming another identity, but retaining the same first name and an almost identical surname Kane instead of Keene. And this is the report on a homeless man who vanished the day before the supposed accident. Cross scrutinized the papers intently. Her expression was neutral, but Azora saw a keen interest spark in her eyes. You're alleging your husband faked his death using another man's body? Yes, Azora answered with conviction. And that he now lives with another woman evading creditors and the law. And you? Yes. Cross turned to Lucius. And what's your role in this? A witness? Lucius responded calmly. I saw the man at a restaurant. Azora recognized him as her husband, so I decided to help her. I see. And why I cannot abide deception. The detective tapped her pen on the desk, deep in thought. Very well, I'll take the complaint. I'm opening a preliminary investigation. If your statements are corroborated, we will initiate criminal proceedings. But be warned, if it turns out that you are slandering an individual, the repercussions will be severe. I'm not fabricating anything, Azora stated firmly. I am telling the truth. We shall see. Cross began to fill out the paperwork. Azora signed the complaint. Bingham left his contact information, as did Lucius. Within a week we'll run the necessary checks, the detective stated. I will be in touch with you. They exited the station. Azora's legs felt unsteady. Lucius supported her by the arm. You did wonderfully, he said. You were perfect. Thank you, she whispered back. Bingham nodded. Cross is sharp. She won't let this gather dust. Now we wait. Their wait lasted for 5 days. Azora returned to her job at the gas station. Ma Toiver ultimately forgave the sudden absence and accepted her back. Vonda Banks naturally was simply bursting with curiosity. Where'd you go that day with Mr. Moneybags? I had business to handle, Azora replied curtly. What kind? Vonda pressed. My own business. Ma's voice rose. Vonda, stay out of other people's affairs. The other woman pursed her lips, irritated, and fell silent. Terrell Moss sent several pensive looks Azora's way in the following days. He once approached when they were alone. You. In some trouble I was. I hope it resolves soon. If you need a hand, just say the word. Perhaps I can help. Thanks, Terrell. Azora smiled faintly. He nodded and moved off. A good kid. Too bad there were so few like him. On the 6th day, Detective Cross called. Azora, please come to the station. We have an update. Azora hurried to headquarters. Cross greeted her with a serious expression. We've run our checks. We reviewed the file, questioned witnesses, and verified the information on the missing homeless man. We also identified the woman cohabiting with the man passing as Drayton Kane, Genevieve St. Clair, a businesswoman. By her own account, she met the man 6 months ago. He presented himself to her as Drayton Keene, entrepreneur. Azora held her breath as he continued. We then filed a request to exhume the body interred under the name Drayton Keene. Azora's breath caught in her throat. Exhumation. Yes. A DNA test is required. If your husband is not in that grave, we'll open a criminal investigation. This procedure takes time, but it's absolutely essential. Azora nodded. The thought of disturbing the grave was horrific, yet there was no other option. Also, Cross added, we have Drayton Kane under surveillance. We'll bring him in to testify as an alleged witness for a separate inquiry. During that interview, we will obtain his fingerprints. We will compare them to those on file for your husband. Since he has a passport, his prints are on record. If he declines to come in, that refusal itself will arouse suspicion. For now, we proceed as if we know nothing at all. A simple routine. Hope started to swell inside Azora. When tomorrow, I will inform. You the moment I have the results. The following day dragged on endlessly. Azora couldn't concentrate at work. Ma chided her. On several occasions. Vonda attempted to pry once more. Azora remained quiet. Cross phoned her at dusk. Azora, the fingerprints are a match. The man residing with St. Clair as Drayton Kane is your husband. And we now have the DNA result from the grave. The body isn't Drayton Keene. It's the missing transient Rufus Old Man Diggs. Azura sank into a chair. So it was true. All of it was true. And now what she asked. Now we open a criminal case. Charges document. Forgery, fraud, and homicide. We'll proceed with the arrest tomorrow morning. You'll need to provide an official statement. I will be there, Azora stated firmly. She phoned Lucius to tell him everything. He listened silent for a long moment. So it is confirmed. My congratulations. You have been incredibly brave, Azora. It's thanks to you, she said with sincerity. Without your assistance, I couldn't have done this. Nonsense. You would have managed it regardless. It just would have taken more time. The following morning, Azura went back to the precinct. Cross greeted her there with several other officers. We're proceeding with the arrest now, she explained. You can either accompany us or wait for us here. I am coming with you, Azura answered without a moment's hesitation. They departed in 3 cars. The St. Clair home was in a luxurious gated community, a high fence, a perfect lawn, a pricey security system. The officers pressed the buzzer. Genevieve opened it herself. She was tall, well-groomed, and in a costly robe. Her face went pale at the sight of police. What is going on? Genevieve St. Clair. We must speak with Drayton Keene, or Kane, as he now calls himself. Is he present? Yes, but what is happening? Please open the gate. Genevieve complied, opening it. The police entered. Azora stayed in the car, but she saw everything through the open doorway. Drayton emerged from a room. He was in loungewear, his feet bare. On seeing the officers, he froze in his tracks. Drayton Keene, the lead officer, asked, It's Kane. What is it? You are under arrest on suspicion of document forgery and fraud. You have the right to what Drayton's face went ashen. What forgery? What are you talking about orchestrating your own death? Drayton recoiled, his face a mask of horror. I don't understand. Mother. Oh, you understand. Come with us. Genevieve let out a sharp cry. Drayton, what is going on? What death are they talking about? He turned to face her, his mouth opened but no words came out. The officers handcuffed him and led him away. Genevieve lunged forward, but an officer intercepted her. Ma'am, please calm down. We'll clarify everything shortly. Azora observed as they placed Drayton into the police car. He lifted his head, saw her, and their eyes locked. His gaze held panic, confusion, and utter disbelief. She met it with calm resolve. No hatred, no satisfaction, just a steady stare. The engine turned over as they drove Drayton away. Cross came to Azora. The investigation starts now. You must testify. Participate in confrontations. Are you prepared? Yes, Azora answered. I'm prepared. And she absolutely was. Prepared to endure it all because she knew the truth would finally surface. Drayton would be held accountable for his actions, and she could reclaim her life. The inquiry commenced. Drayton was moved to a holding facility with a court-appointed lawyer. Azora was summoned nearly every day for her testimony. Repeatedly, she recounted the same version of events, describing her life with Drayton, how he prohibited her from working the sudden news of his death and burying that sealed coffin, and how she became saddled with his massive debts. Detective Sergeant Naya Cross handled the case with precision and rigor. She subpoenaed all financial records, examining one by one the alleged signatures of Azora on those loan agreements. She brought in a handwriting specialist. Azora, the detective, stated with the results the signatures on these contracts are forgeries. The specialist confirmed it is a mimicry of your script, but penned by someone else, most likely your husband. Azora shut her eyes. He had faked her signature, securing loans under her name. He had orchestrated this from the start. And those collectors insisted the signature was genuine. He planned to leave me with the debt, she whispered. Precisely. Cross nodded. He secured the loans fully intending to vanish. He also made you a co-signer on the debt. So if he died, the banks would hold you responsible. It's a textbook case of fraud. What of that other man? The man from the streets. The detective's expression grew grim. Rufus Diggs, 53 years old, once a construction worker, became homeless because of alcohol. Witnesses say 2 days before the crash, they saw him with an unknown man. This man offered him drinks, engaged him in conversation, then Diggs vanished. The supposed accident happened the following day. Drayton murdered him. That's what we're confirming. But the initial coroner's findings state Diggs died prior to the crash. The cause of death was poisoning from tainted alcohol. It's likely your husband intentionally gave him the lethal bottle, waited for him to perish, put him in his own clothing, planted his identification, and then faked the accident. A wave of nausea washed over Azora. Drayton had murdered a man coldly, calculatingly for money and a new life with her. What will he be facing, she inquired. Homicide, fraud, forgery. If we prove everything, at least 15 years. The face-to-face with Drayton was scheduled for 1 week later. Azora readied herself for it, but felt an undeniable anxiety. She had not seen him since his arrest at Genevieve's home. They were escorted into the office via separate entrances. Drayton appeared gaunt and unshaven, his eyes sunken, wearing the detention center's standard-issued jumpsuit. He flinched the moment he saw Azora. "Sit down," Cross commanded. "Mr. Keene, do you admit to faking your death?" Drayton said nothing. His attorney, a younger man with anxious habits, leaned in and whispered to him. "I plead the fifth." Drayton rasped, his voice raw. "All right then, let's take Azora's statement." Cross turned his gaze to the woman. "Describe your life together for us." Azora began to speak. She recounted calmly, without agitation, how Drayton forbade her from working, how he controlled all the finances, how he was frequently absent claiming business trips, and how, right before his staged death, he became agitated and nervous. Drayton listened with his head down. "Were you aware of his affair with Genevieve St. Clair?" Cross questioned. "No. I discovered her that night at the restaurant." "Mr. Keene." The detective turned toward him. "Do you wish to say anything?" He lifted his head. His eyes were full of despair. "Azora," he murmured, his voice cracking. "Please forgive me. I never meant for this. I got into a terrible bind. Debts kept growing and I couldn't." Genevieve offered to assist, but only if I became a free man. "And for that, you decided to die?" Azura asked softly. "And pass your debts? To me, I figured you would cope. You have a degree. You could have found employment. For 10 years, you made me stay home, at your whim." "What employment, Drayton?" He lowered his head again. "I never thought it would end up like this. You killed a man, Drayton. You took his life to fake your own death." "No." He shot up from his seat. "I did not kill him. He passed on his own. I simply used the opportunity." "Sit down," Cross commanded coldly. "Explain that more clearly." Drayton sank into the chair, gasping for air. "I was seeking someone similar to my height and build. I found this man Diggs. I struck up a conversation with him. He consented to have a drink with me. I passed him the bottle. I didn't realize it was bad alcohol. I genuinely bought it from some fellas on the street. I believed it was just regular moonshine. He drank it, and an hour later, he was gone. I was terrified. I didn't know the first thing to do. Then I realized it was my opportunity. I swapped his clothes for mine, put my identification on him, placed him in the car, rolled it down the embankment, and set it ablaze." Azura listened in utter disbelief. He narrated it with such nonchalance, as if discussing a minor problem at home. "Do you realize the gravity of what you have done?" she inquired. "I do," he replied, looking at her, "but I was left with no other choice." "A choice always exists. You weren't drowning in 400,000 of debt," he suddenly yelled. You don't have a clue what that is like. I know precisely what it's like to carry those debts, Azura retorted fiercely, because you abandoned them to me while you were living like royalty with your wealthy mistress. Drayton hung his head. Once more, Cross hit stop on the recorder. That's enough for now. The confrontation has ended. After the meeting, Azura felt completely empty. She went back to the boarding house, collapsed on her bed, and wept all afternoon. Not from feeling sorry for herself, and not out of bitterness. She wept with the realization that she'd spent 10 years next to a man she never really knew. A man capable of taking a life. Lucius phoned her that evening. Azura, how are you holding up? Fine. She lied. You are not fine. I can hear it in your voice. Come down to the office tomorrow. We must talk. Regarding what? Regarding what comes next for you. The following day, Azura went to Lucius's firm. He met with her together with Lissa Barnes, the director of Human Resources. Lissa was a pleasant woman of about 55 with a kind and gentle nature. Azura, Lucius started, the investigation is progressing. The case against him is all but proven. A trial will happen soon. Your husband is going to prison and all the debts will revert to his name. You will be free. But what will happen after that? What do you mean by that? Azura asked, cautiously. After this, you'll require employment, a real career. I'd like to offer you a position at my company. Azura stared at him, taken aback. I would love that, but I have no skills beyond, well, you know. You're more capable than you realize. Lucius, cut in. At the restaurant that evening, you showed you were intelligent, focused, and capable of rapid adaptation. That's incredibly valuable. Lissa is prepared to bring you on as an office assistant, good pay, benefits, and potential. Lissa agreed. We will train you on everything you need. Don't you worry. Azura was at a loss for words. Suddenly, tears welled up in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I mean it, thank you. There's no need to thank us. Lucius smiled. You'll earn every single dollar. I'm a tough boss. Azura laughed amid her tears. I'm not. Afraid of high expectations provided they're just. 1 month later, the trial began. The prosecutor read the charges. A stream of witnesses took the stand. Odora Keene Drayton's mother wept in court, simultaneously glad her son was alive and crushed that he faced many years behind bars. She reverted to blaming Azura for it all. Thaddeus. Keene kept a grave expression, his gaze fixed downward. Genevieve St. Clair also took the stand. She was rattled. It emerged Drayton had portrayed himself as a thriving entrepreneur and a recent widower. She had believed him pouring money into his ventures and planning a joint business with him. I had no idea, she reiterated. I believed he was an honest man. Azura observed her without any resentment. Genevieve was a victim as well, simply a more affluent one. Drayton sat in the dock looking pale and gaunt. As the judge delivered the sentence, he remained motionless. This court finds the defendant guilty of these crimes, of homicide, fraud, and the forgery of documents. He is sentenced to 14 years imprisonment. All credit liabilities in the name of Azura Keene are hereby nullified, and the entire debt is transferred to Drayton Keene. Azura breathed out. It was finished. She was finally free. As they led Drayton away, he turned at the door to look at her. His gaze held pleading regret, but it was far too late. Odora suddenly lunged toward Azura. You ruined him. He ruined himself, Azura retorted. Settle down. Thaddeus gently tugged his sister's arm. We're going, Odora. That's enough. They departed. Azura remained for a moment in the nearly empty room. Lucius came near and placed a hand on her shoulder. Congratulations, you've won. I haven't won, she replied softly. I've only set things right with your assistance. That is the definition of winning. They exited the courthouse. Outside, the sun was bright and the air smelled of spring. Azura tilted her face toward the sky, closing her eyes. So now what are your plans? Lucius inquired. Live, she said with a smile. Just live. 3 months went by. Azura had moved out of the boarding house and into a small, rental apartment, a one-bedroom place not far from work, which was modest but her own. She began to furnish it, slowly buying a couch, a table, and a bookshelf, and hung sheer curtains on the windows. For the first time in ages, she felt that the space was genuinely hers. The job at Lucius's company proved to be both engaging and demanding. The initial weeks were difficult. Azura learned to manage documentation, use new software, and adjust to the pace of office life. Elena Grimaldo, Lucius's executive assistant, trained her patiently but also with very high expectations. Azura, I've found an error. Here, she would state, pointing at a document. Pay attention. In our work, every single detail is important. Azura corrected, learned, and memorized. Her mistakes became less frequent. After a month had passed, Ellen appraised her. For the first time. Not bad at all. You're a quick study. Her colleagues reacted to her differently. Max Cohen, the head of legal, was distant, yet professional. Constantine, the financial analyst, watched her with skepticism, but eventually he began to warm up. Once he saw that Azura was serious about her work. Lissa Barnes doted on her like a daughter, often bringing her some homemade, sweet potato pie. Eat up, dear, she would insist. You're far too thin. You need to build your strength back up. Azura smiled gratefully. These people were starting to feel almost like family. With Lucius, her conversations were mostly about work. He was a demanding boss, who made no exceptions yet always acted with fairness. Azura appreciated that. She didn't want any special treatment. She only wanted to work hard and prove her own usefulness. One evening, after nearly everyone else had gone home, Lucius came into her office. Azura was just finishing up the quarterly report. You're still here? He asked, surprised. I want to get this done today, she said, without glancing up from her screen. Azura, it's 9 p.m. You should go home. Just half an hour more and I'll be done. Lucius walked over and glanced at her monitor. This is very good. You do more than what's asked. I just want to ensure it's all correct. That's admirable, but don't forget, you need to rest. If you burn out, you won't be of use to anyone. Azura pushed back from her computer and looked up at him. Lucius, thank you for all of this. If it weren't for you... Stop, he cut in. You're the one who did it, all on your own. All I did was open a door. You gave me more than just a door. You gave me back my hope. Lucius was quiet for a moment. You know, when I first saw you back at that gas station, I thought to myself, now here is a person who refused to break despite it all, and I wasn't mistaken. Azura could feel her cheeks begin to flush. I just refused to give up on myself. That's what strength is. They were both quiet for a moment. Then Lucius smiled. All right, finish up that report. I will wait, and I'll drive you home. There's no need. I can just take the bus. It is too late. Don't argue with me. Azura nodded. Half an hour later, they went down to his car together. Kojo had already gone for the night, so Lucius drove. They rode along in silence, but it was a comfortable kind of silence. How's your mother doing? He asked unexpectedly. She's doing well. I call her weekly. She is so happy that things have finally settled down. My brother Tverius is as well. He wanted to visit, but I assured him I'm managing okay. I didn't want to take him away from his family. I can understand that. Lucius nodded. They soon arrived at Azura's apartment building. She opened her car door and turned back to him. Thank you again for the job and for everything. Don't mention it. You get some rest, Azura. Good night. Her neighbors in the building turned out to be very kind. Alba, a young mother with 2 children, would often knock on her door asking to borrow some salt or sugar. She would stay for tea and they'd chat about ordinary things. Miss Hannah, the elderly neighbor from across the hall would sometimes stop by with a few questions. Azura, dear, who is that gentleman who brings you home in that car sometimes? So handsome and elegant. That's my boss, Miss Hana. Azura laughed. Oh, I was hoping he was a suitor. No, he's just my boss. Well, that's a shame. You should find a nice gentleman. Azura just shook her head. She wasn't ready to think about her personal life just yet. She had enough on her plate with work, new experiences, and rebuilding her life. Mr. Pete, retired. A railroad worker would pass his evenings on the bench by the entrance, and Azora occasionally sat down beside him. He was a man of few words, but a truly good person. One day he remarked to her, "You're a sensible young woman. You don't complain or carry on. That's good." "Thanks, Mr. Pete. You just keep at it. My daughter, however, has become so delicate. Everything seems to upset her." Azora smiled, appreciating his simple human warmth. Then one day, a letter came. It was from Bingham, the lawyer, who informed her that Drayton's case was officially concluded and that all loans in her name had been nullified, leaving no further claims against her. He also mentioned that Genevieve St. Clair had sued Drayton for damages to recover the money she'd spent on him, but since he was penniless, she would hardly see any of it back. Azora folded the letter, completely indifferent. That part of her story was finished. She refused to think on it anymore. That very afternoon, as the workday was ending, Lucia stopped her. "Azora, I have a proposition." "I'm listening." "In 1 week, I have a business trip to New York for meetings with partners. Elena is unwell and cannot go. Would you come with me? I'll need some help with the documents and our schedule." Azura grew thoughtful, as she had never been to New York. "I will do my absolute best to be equal to the task." "I'm confident you will be. We fly Monday morning and return on Wednesday. The company covers all expenses." "All right then, I accept." The New York trip was intense: meetings, negotiations, and signing deals. Azura worked at full capacity, preparing documents, setting up meetings, and overseeing the schedule. Lucius gave her approving looks several times. Excellent work. On the afternoon of the second day, their meetings wrapped up early. Lucius suggested, "Azora, we have 3 hours to spare. Have you ever visited the Met?" "No, never." "Then we must go. You can't come all the way to New York and not experience at least one great museum." And so they went. The museum astounded her. Enormous halls. Paintings from great masters, ancient furniture, and stunning sculptures. Azura walked through, completely mesmerized. "It's quite beautiful, isn't it?" Lucius asked. "It's absolutely breathtaking," she whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." "The world is vast, Azora, and filled with interesting things. Don't confine yourself within 4 walls. Live your life fully." She looked at him. "You're absolutely right. I've been living in a cage for too long. It's time to escape." Exactly. They left the museum as dusk began to settle. Lucius suggested dinner at a quaint restaurant near Central Park. They sat by the window and ordered their meal. "Azura," Lucius began, "I want to say something." "I am listening." "You've changed a great deal these past months. You have become more confident, stronger. I'm so glad I could help you." "I am glad too. You changed my life." "You changed it on your own. I was merely there at the opportune moment." Azura smiled. "Lucius, may I ask you something personal?" "Go ahead." "Why, did you ask me to pose as your wife that day at the gas station?" "The honest reason?" Lucius stared out at the lights of the city through the glass for a moment. "The truth, I was married 10 years ago. My wife died in a car crash. Since then I've been unable to form a real connection with anyone, but my partners kept insisting that for a serious businessman, having a family looks proper." That night the Abernathys were coming, a conservative couple for whom family is everything. I decided to mislead them by hiring an actress. I had it all arranged. Then I saw you shivering, weary but still defiant, And it struck me that you would understand what it means to play a part just to survive. Azora listened, hanging on his every word. I'm sorry, she said softly. I'm so sorry that you lost your wife. Thank you. It happened a long time ago. The pain has faded, but it never fully disappears. I don't suppose it ever does. Truly disappears. I understand. They sat in silence for a short while. Then Lucius smiled. Well, enough of the sadness. Let's make a toast to fresh starts. They lifted their glasses. Azora sensed a new connection forming, something beyond just a boss and his employee, but something more. They got back to Chicago on Wednesday afternoon. Lucius drove her home. She exited the car and turned around. Thank you for the trip. It's been truly memorable. Of course. You did an outstanding job. I really think you deserve a promotion. I'm going to speak with Lissa. You've earned this. Azura smiled and went up to her apartment. She sat by her window looking at the city lights. She felt a profound warmth and peace inside her. The future no longer scared her. She felt certain everything would be fine. 1 month later, she was officially offered a promotion to be Lucius's assistant for general affairs. Her pay rose, and so did her duties, but she managed everything perfectly. Late one Friday afternoon, with the office nearly deserted, Lucius walked into her office. Azura, let's forget about work for tonight. Let's go out for dinner. She looked up startled. Dinner out of the blue. Yes, just like that. No work discussions. Just two people looking to spend an evening in good company. Azora felt her heartbeat quicken. She smiled. Okay, but you should know. I'm buying dessert. Lucius chuckled. It's a deal. They walked out of the office together and into his car, talking about simple things, the weather, and plans for the weekend. It was easy and natural with no tension. Azora gazed out the window and reflected on how much her life had truly changed. Just 6 months ago, she was at a cold gas station, utterly exhausted and buried under debt and betrayal. And here she was in a car with the man who helped her recover, who had faith in her, and who had grown to be more than just her employer. She had no idea what the future held for them. She wasn't making any long-range plans. She was just living in the now. And for the first time in so many years, she was truly happy. The restaurant they went to was a small, intimate soul food fusion spot that featured live jazz. After sitting down, they ordered their dinner and chatted about everything and nothing, and they laughed freely. Lucius shared his life stories. Azura spoke about her neighbors. When dessert was brought out, Azura gave her card to the waiter. My treat. Lucius did not protest. He just smiled. Thank you. They finished up their coffee and stepped outside. The night was mild, carrying the fragrance of spring. Lucius turned his gaze to Azora. You know, I am so happy I stopped at your gas station that day. Me too, she said, smiling. They strolled along the street together, two free souls with their futures before them. Life can sometimes deliver some devastating blows. Yet those who refuse to surrender, the ones who fight on, invariably find their path to happiness. Azura had endured treachery, anguish, and deep humiliation, but she remained unbroken, and she discovered the courage to begin again. Because it isn't what happens in your life that matters most. It is how you choose to react to it. Did you enjoy the story, and where are you watching from? Where are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If this story resonated with you, a super thanks would mean the world to me. It helps me continue creating narratives like this one. Your kindness and support are truly appreciated. I can't wait to read your thoughts below. Appearing on your screen are two new life stories I have handpicked for you. There is so much more to explore on my channel. Be sure to subscribe. I will meet you again in the next life story with all my love and respect.